Hello, podcast lovers. Thank you so much for tuning back in. I'm your host, Žana. And today I have an amazing guest here, and I'm so excited to introduce her. We have met on a seminar and very, very quickly decided and felt that we are somehow differently connected as humans, simply because our spiritual journey is very similar and we have similar ideas about how transformation internally can happen or sort of sometimes does happen. And I had the privilege to already read her book. It's fantastic, but we'll get to that a little later. But for now, Johanna, I'm so happy you're here. Thank you for your time and thank you for sharing your beautiful brain and knowledge and spirituality journey with me. And how are you? I'm so happy you're here. Thank you.
Well, I'm happy to be here. It's always a nice adventure with you.
Okay. Yeah, so my thing is, and I know when we met personally, we had so many private conversations, and I truly do feel that we are becoming more than just friends in this lifetime. I feel a very special connection to you. And when we always exchanged about spirituality and the transformation that one can really go through, I, for myself, really noticed that a lot of times transformational process sort of always comes with some pain and some difficulties and a lot of challenges and problems in life that seem to be wanting to be conquered. And I'm so curious about to find out what is your point of view? Would you say that through all the struggles that you went through, you actually grew spiritually, or where did you really felt like that you actually made a transformation?
Well, you have a son, when the bones are growing, you have growing pains and they can be quite painful.
Right.
It's the same with any kind of growth. Growth is expansion, it's painful because we're really like we're sedative. We like to and repeat what we know and stay where we are, and so that's more human nature, and we don't want to have any pain or any challenges if possible, but then we get bored and we call in the challenges. So that's
Yeah. That's
because
interesting that you just said with the calling in, because I'm wondering, when people say that everything in our current life sort of is kind of like what we basically manifested unintentionally or unconsciously. What is your point of view? Because you just said, we're calling it in. So I'm so curious exactly to understand that part a little bit better in your opinion.
well, that's a really deep subject. So the
Right.
whether or not you what I mean by calling it in is if you're really bored at home, you go out, you know
Right.
that's just it. Or you go to school because you want to learn more. You don't want to stay at the 5-year level of not being able to read, although learning to read at some point can be really challenging,
Yeah.
annoying and hard. And so everything worthwhile comes with some growth and some pain and some struggle, because that
Hmm.
also makes us feel like we accomplished something if we go through the struggle. So it's good to have a little bit of that in our life just to make it more interesting and to be present. And so
Hmm.
transformation, but we can't stay the same. So we're constantly rebuilding, ourselves are renewing, everything is changing. So we can't stay the same. That's just something we would like a lot of times because we feel like, oh, this is so nice. Can I have this moment forever? But then if that moment stayed forever, it would soon become hell. Like Groundhog Day, you'd have to do it over and over again.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. And
So
so
that
when you
wanting to be the same is kind of an illusion of a moment that is nice.
Mhm. So even if we do decide in our human awareness, I want this to stay like this exactly forever, do you feel that the universe has stronger powers of actually doing it not that way? Like no matter, I guess my question is, even if you decide or not decide wanting to grow or wanting to change, is it still happening, even if you like it or
So
not?
you're asking, in your small human mind, are you able to stop the flow of the universe? No, you
Yes.
don't.
Okay.
And that goes with everything that manifests also has to go again, because it cannot stay. So everything is temporary.
Right.
So if you want to really manifest something in your life, you have to know that it is only temporary, whatever it is. Your body is temporary. You try to freeze it and reawaken it at some other time. Maybe that's going to work in the future, but it still is going to decompose again.
Right.
So,
right. So I feel like fundamentally everything is just borrowed, and that's why it's kind of like more the best way to stay in the here and now. Is that kind of like
yeah, but
a
if
good
you
way to...
borrow something, you own it for a while. You don't own this. It's always changing. So that's a good sentence to live by. Everything is always going to transform. That's the laws of the universe. Now, you can go willingly, or you can be dragged kicking and screaming. And we can be pushed with a lot of pain, or we have the option to maybe go willingly before, when we first are asked to do something.
Right.
Or
Right. And I feel this is exactly why it's so possibly, it's so good to kind of like consciously really understand that it's so imperative to really always stay in the here and now and just really take everything in that you have currently in this moment, just because it's not going to be forever, no matter if it's good or bad, but also B, just for this process that you just expressed, the kicking and screaming to avoid that, just to kind of like jump on that wave of just flowing with it and going with the flow in a sense, versus like, oh, it has to be this way, or it has to be this way, or because I'm guilty of that. I'll tell you, I'm probably very guilty of that, because there's certain things that my conscious human mind is telling me, well, this is my right, and I would like it this way just because I feel I'm entitled to. But then my other part of me, my spiritual part of me, is like, well, if you really truly believe, then why do you need to hold on to any of that? Like, what is the point of holding on to something so consciously when you really are truly believing in a higher power?
Well, if you really are truly believing, or it's not just believing, it's a knowing. If you know, then you can be in the moment. But if you have like one little tiny little bit of doubt that the rent is going to be paid next month, or that your car is still going to be there when you walk out the door, because you feel that you need it in that moment, then you're already not in the moment. You're not living in the moment. So it's very hard I would say it's very hard, and very few people have achieved the state of truly being in the moment, and also owning nothing, which goes with the moment, because you don't need anything. I mean, that's a different kind of life. I don't think our listeners are trying to attempt that kind of a life.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's always good to try to attempt a life of just inner peace, like that fact exactly of knowing and not so much thinking about it. But if you do think about it, which I think it's kind of like human nature to quickly go back into, it's okay no matter what, I'll be okay. Like everything is going to work out in my favor no matter what, even if the favor is against me in this moment. At the end of the day, it still benefited me because it worked out even better, actually. And I think that's really something that I, for a long time, struggled with, like really truly owning that no matter what, even if something really bad happens, in the end, it was exactly great that that bad thing actually had happened, because it helped me to either achieve a different mindset or break out of a pattern, or, be protected from something that I so wanted in the beginning. And so I think that's, maybe something that is, I don't know, easy to master, not at all, but maybe something to be like, okay, if I can get to a part where it's like I'm just having inner peace internally and I maintain that as good as I can, maybe things when they fall apart don't matter so much.
Yeah, and maybe they do, and you're very upset about it for a while. I mean, it's okay to be upset for a while. So all suffering comes from attachment. If you're attached to anything, people, outcomes, ideas, or how you want it, That always, because everything has to go again, because nothing is forever. It's all temporary, whatever creation, including the bodies and stuff. So you have to let it go. So when you have desire to get something, you also have not the desire, but you should have the knowledge that you'll have to leave it behind again at some point, because it can't stay with you. So you just go after, like, I want to have a good experience, I want to have things work out and all that. That's fine, but it's unrealistic, because it's not happening like that. It's not, if there was always sunshine and no rain, we'd live in a desert where we wouldn't live, actually.
Yeah.
So we need all of that. I'd like to look at it as it's just experiences. See, life is not something you can fail at, but you accumulate a different set of experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Some people experience not having a home, some people experience having a mansion, but those are just different experiences. In the end, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a different learning or a different experience.
Mm-hmm.
But when you see
Yeah.
it as an experience, and when you know that things are always changing, then also you are not shocked when they change. So when you move from not having a home to a big mansion, and you can look at that the same way as an experience, and you will never be disappointed. You'll never be suffering
Mm-hmm.
from losing that. So watch out what you're attached to. That's
Yeah.
really the key, because you're going to have to let it go. Latest when you leave the body.
Latest then, yeah. And is it fair to say that fundamentally just really practicing gratitude on daily basis can help one to kind of like let go of attachment and just really live in that moment of like, right now it is what it is, yet I'm still grateful for it, regardless if the situation is good or not so good in your own personal opinion. But if you just hold on and really practice gratitude, could that be something maybe where people can be more internally relaxed and just see things for what they really are in that moment, versus of, I got to get here, I got to accomplish that? Because I sometimes feel like we're so eager to either stay in the past and dwell on the past and heal and take all of that time to recover what had happened, or we're so eager to jump forward and be like, well, what's it going to be then? What's next year going to be? What's my next this? What's my next that? And how can I get this? And versus what is actually here and now. And I feel like when we overjump that, and when we're so hung up on this or that, the right now is kind of like being missed, because you're missing little things that are valuable. And I guess everybody describes being rich in a different way. You get me? Like, some people say, oh, I'm rich because I have this amount in my bank, or I accomplished this goal, or I have this degree, or whatever. And then some people consider being rich by simply just enjoying, when they walk out of their home, that there's a beautiful tree and that they actually can breathe in fresh air. That's being rich to some people, because I feel like when we value those things and those aspects of life that are being overlooked at times, is really when so much more is opening to us. I don't know. What do you feel about that? Like,
Well,
what's
those
your?
were kind of, to me, some different topics. Now, gratitude is always really great, because you will see more of what you focus on around you. If
Right.
you focus on gratitude, there'll be more things in your life to be grateful for. So that's really a good thing to do anyway. Um, the past doesn't exist. You can't go back there, no matter how hard you try. And the future doesn't exist either. And somebody, and I'm not sure who said that, is that nobody has ever met the future they envisioned, because you can't. And when you get to the future, it is definitely something different, because you're a different person at that moment. By thinking about the future and the past constantly, you're missing out the opportunity of the present moment, because everything
Yeah.
happens in the moment. So getting yourself back into the moment, like right now I'm fine, next moment I'm fine again.
Yeah. And I
That
feel like that. Mhm.
that opens up a lot more not so painful possibilities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then also whatever possibilities or opportunities or experiences are then happening, I feel like when you stay in that mind frame, it's easier to deal with them because again, there's no expectations at
Yeah.
all. It's just viewed as an experience of life and just accepted for such too, versus like, oh, this is just what happened today. I just had a okay conversation with somebody at the grocery store when really that's great. Good for you. Like, I mean, there's so many people that don't even have any kind of contact with anybody because something had happened and they're just now totally isolated. So when we have these, and that's my big thing is, like the whole just really appreciating and being grateful for every small detail that is around you that you can actually do with yourself, like if your eyesight is working and your hands are working and you breathe correctly, like those are all
Yeah, those
your
are great
really.
things to be grateful for that are already working and that should probably work in the next moment too, hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah, right, exactly. Because a big thing that I kind of like always took from our conversations when we have private conversations was the fact that when you explained to me, which is also beautifully described, by the way, in your book, about this idea of when we have certain situations in our lives or just people in our lives, how we really actually place those situations and people to execute those type of behaviors or attitudes or movements or whatever, kind of like you described it as we're creating our own movie and we're our own director of a movie and we are responsible for all the actors inside of our movie. And so for me that was so interesting because when I started to let go of my resentment and of pain, I started to see it more and more as like, thank you so much, you person, whoever I truly at the beginning hired to be that person. But then it turned into thank you so much because I learned so much from you, you being this way to me, even though when this person was this way to me or this situation had happened, it was really painful for me to go through that. But through you, when we had conversations, you kind of explained that it's it's kind of like a thing that you created yourself and you should look at it how grateful you are that number one, you did that to yourself in a sense, you helped this person to be this type of way to you. So instead of kind of going with like resentment and negativity, rather being like, thank you, because you helped me to become more aware of my own, whatever it might be, self-awareness, self-respect, self-love, or whatever. And so, yeah, I thought that was really cool written in your book too, which I thought was, really helpful for me to understand it much deeper on a deeper level.
Well, the thing is, we have the choice. You can be a victim of your circumstance,
Mm-hmm.
and as the victim, you can't do anything. You're a victim. You're suffering. Everybody else is at fault. Everybody else holds the power because the victim needs the perpetrator. And in that case, the perpetrator has the power.
Right.
So as long as you are a victim, you are helpless and you just sort of the driftwood on the river of misery. And if you are if you actually are the writer of the story, you have the power. You're no longer the victim. You are, okay, so there's the role of the victim, here's the role of the perpetrator, and now we're going to switch the roles, or now we're going to do that, or now they go separate ways. That's a powerful position.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think my question to that is, I guess my question to that is just at the beginning when I didn't get the concept and I didn't have this type of mindset, for me, it was very difficult personally to really be like, okay, I manifested this person to be this role in my movie. Because who would want to manifest something negative in your life? But yet we have these negative events in our life. And I feel like I had such a hard time, really logistically, because I'm such a logical person, to really just understand how can I, the person that is actually just aiming peace and wanting to have a happy life, how was this possible that I created this type of scenario in my current life event, in my current life path? And so you know, I mean, I don't know if there's maybe other people like that out there, but certainly I felt like that, until I obviously got more rooted and grounded in my spirituality and in my walk. Then it became more kind of like, now I'm grateful for that. But at the beginning, when I started, I'm like, this is crazy. I should be thanking for this person hurting me. I should forgive them for hurting me, and I
No,
should
no,
ask
no.
them.
They should forgive you. No, no, no. You're still not there. You should ask them to forgive you for having given
Mhm.
them such a shitty role in your life.
Right.
So that's one step further than you forgiving them, because that still means they've done something to you.
Uh-huh.
You
Right.
forgive it, but since they haven't done anything to you, but you've done something to them because you made them the character that they are in your life,
Hmm.
that makes you
Hmm.
the perpetrator in that case,
Hmm.
but also the person that is, in charge. You In the society now, we like to blame everybody else. Lawsuits are through the roof. Like, you fall, you blame the person that created the little unevenness in the sidewalk. If you could sue trees, we'd have lots of lawsuits right now. But
Yeah.
that's the thing. Like, oh, we as a victim, and you have to pay for it because you owe me. That's a perpetual suffering concept. So if you are, and that's basic Ho'oponopono, a Hawaiian healing method, that if you can see it the other way, we're all interconnected and they have a role in your well-being. Like, you tripped over that sidewalk and fell because you needed to experience not being able to walk for a couple of days and sitting at home because there were important things there to do or so. And, I did that one. Um,
Hmm.
Not in the sidewalk, but on the tide poles.
Yeah.
So those things happen to get your attention somewhere else, but you decide what you want to learn in this lifetime. You decide where you want to go. You can't go from A to B by standing on A. You have to leave A to get to B.
Hmm.
And that's a big concept. And that's where people get scared and they go like, oh, no, 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 I want to be where I know, and I want to have all the insurance, and I want to have all the lawyers to help me stay where I am on A and be happy there. But life doesn't work that way, and the universe always has the upper hand. You can try to manifest whatever you want. If the universe has something different in mind for you, that's not going to happen. Or it's going to happen and it's going to go so wrong that you wish you never wanted that.
Right.
Um,
Right.
we all like have some sort of experience of really wanting something or somebody to be with, the right person to be with, that later on turned out to be the nightmare to be with. But we really wanted that, and it probably gave us lots of good learning experiences. That the other
Hmm.
person gave us all the learning experiences, and then we can let it go. But that's the fun thing. If things are really bad, they're going to change again. That's just a fact. And if things are really good, they're going to change again too. That's also a fact.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
But the other thing is that if you want to be a good person, you have to, how do you know you're going to be a good person? What's the way to find out that you're a good person?
I mean, I guess one way would be to really look around you, what your circumstances are, like what's your surroundings. I think that's a good way of just deciding what type of personality you are, because I feel like we attract what we go through. And so, if we have, in a sense, people around us that are nurturing and caring for us just as we care for them, then I think that's maybe a sign to be like, okay, that's really something that I can sort of look, because if we really create things in our life intentionally or unintentionally, then that may be something that it's based on too. But I truly believe that all the things that you really carry in your heart, if like the purpose of why you wanting to achieve certain things, if they're not met with a pure intention, then I think that's another it's another way of just failing, because if your intention is to, let's just say somebody's intention is to be a billionaire. But the truth why they want to be a billionaire is not because necessarily they're aiming for wanting to open up another hospital that is needed in their city, or they want to contribute to schools that they feel like their grandchildren or their child goes to and they need all these tools. But their simple, intention is to just have money so they can be safe forever. I feel like it also depends what your true intention internally is in combining with aligning what the universe has for you. Because if your intention is really pure in here, yeah, okay, if the universe is not for you not to have that, then I agree, it won't happen for you because you're not in control. You're not the creator. But I feel
Well,
like if your
yeah.
intention is already bad, if your intention is really like malicious or bad, even though you per se it as it's not bad, it's this and this, but your heart is different, because I mean, God knows your heart, then, it might leave you down to a road where, yeah, you might get it, but then all these other problems that you never encountered now are coming and waiting for you.
Yeah, but how do you know what's good? How do you know that you're rich? How would you know that you're rich?
Well, I guess that depends how you define being rich to your own self.
Well, let's say monetary rich. How do you define to be monetary rich? What is rich?
What is rich? I guess if one considers being rich in a monetary way, it would mean that they have a nice home, a nice car, enough money in the bank to survive, and do all the things that they desire to do, to buy anyone and anything things, or help people out, or contribute money, or pay for somebody rent. I don't know, maybe that could
Okay,
be
so
one way.
but rich is relevant, right? It's
True.
not really.
Right.
I mean, a billionaire thinks that a millionaire is not rich.
Right. Right.
And somebody that has no money thinks that they're both very rich. So
Mhm.
in order to feel rich, you need to know what's not rich, so what's poor. So in order to be good, you also have to have somebody that's bad. So
Right.
it defines you. So you don't
Mhm.
know you're good. If everybody is good, nobody would know what good is.
Or
It's just
bad. Right.
whatever everybody is. So you need that opposite. You can't have, there's no reason for a Superman story if there is no Lex Luthor. That defines him as the savior of the world, the good guy, and everything. So if there was
Right.
nobody else, then why the hell would he do all these things that he does? I'm not that familiar with the story now, so to say, but there would be no reason for it.
Right.
So all those things are depending on something else, and that's the beauty of the universe, that we live in duality. So we have both aspects and we can grow on it. We see A, we come to B, and then sort of we go up that ladder of our experiences, and we define ourselves all the time on others and on what we see around, and what we decide, like, oh no, that's not what I want, oh yes, that is what I want.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, absolutely. I feel like, a good way of comparison is always to see both sides of the coin, but how can you really see those if you only experience one way? Or if you too, I don't know, too fearful or too scared to allow yourself even to go the other route down, because you want to maintain in your comfort zone. You're too afraid to be like rocking your own boat, so to speak. That's why, some people just prefer to be in their comfort zone and not even chance anything, because if they would, they might completely lose it all, or, have
Yeah,
an
and there's
experience
a good
that they
thing
were
that
not ready
can't
for.
happen. So that can't happen because everything changes. So even a person that strives to not rock their boat will have their boat rocked, or their earth rocked, or a hurricane might hit, or whatever. That's not a possibility, to not have your boat rocked in the outside experience. On the inside, you can be very steady at all times.
Yeah.
If you accept what is, accept what comes, so, and accept what was, as just experiences that are happening. That's the
Mm.
key to happiness. Because the rest, I mean, try to have the universe give you a break. That's not going to happen. The challenges will come whether you like it or not. And in the end, you can't take anything with you. We want to have the security and we want to take it with you. And there's like an old like joke that I always thought was really cute, of a rich man that was a very good person and God favored him. And he said, well, as a gift, I'll let you bring one suitcase into heaven when you come. So the rich man melted all his palace and everything and had just gold bars and filled them in a suitcase. And he comes to the pearly gates and he meets with Peter there. I think that's Peter at the gates. And they're all very curious and they say like, wow, you were allowed one suitcase. We want to know what you brought. What did you bring that was so important that you would pack it in that suitcase? And he opens the suitcase and there's all these gold bars and they all look at him. But you were allowed one suitcase and you brought cobblestones? Like they didn't get, that's really how it is.
Yeah.
Those
Yeah,
things are not
exactly.
important.
Mm-hmm.
They're not, the things that we think are important here in terms of material are meaningless when you don't need any material things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I guess my question would just be, I mean, just for, I don't know, some people that practice maybe that don't practice meditation or like inner peace, solitude time with themselves to just keep themselves there. But what would be a good way for like, what's a good idea in your opinion to just try to really maintain that mindset and kind of sort of, if you are, for instance, a person that is really attached to your things or to your specific ways, what would be maybe an idea of your end to be like, okay, you know what, this is maybe what you can practice to kind of like really detach and understand that that doesn't matter anyway, but here's maybe something that you should try to focus on instead. Like, is it something that someone can practice on daily basis? Is it something that just a light switch goes on all of a sudden through an experience? Or how do people really, in your opinion, get enlightened of that truth?
I think you question yourself and you get to know yourself. That's the best way to do it. So you question yourself all the time, like, who am I? You can say, I am this body, but if you were in an accident now and you lost an arm, then you're no longer existent. That's not true, because you still be there, just minus one arm. So the fact that you are the body is not true. So you discover, if you question that, are you your house? Are you your social status? Are you your friend circle? When they change, if that was the case, if that was your identity, you would lose it. You would no longer exist. So when you start becoming aware of, hey, what am I really? I'm the person that exists experiencing all this, but I'm not any of those things that I'm experiencing. So then just enjoy it. And if you enjoy the people that you're attached to, that's fine. You will suffer when you lose them, maybe a little bit, when you're very attached to them, and you may have to go through a big grieving process. Or you can just say, like, I read the story of somebody who who was giving a speech, and they interrupted to tell him that his son died in an accident. And he said, oh, wow, I am so lucky to have had him in my life for so long. So that's a different way of looking at it. I don't think I would manage to look at it that way at that moment. No, I kind of know I would not be able to look at it that moment, but that is non-attachment to it and just appreciation of what is.
Mm-hmm.
That takes a very evolved person. But for now, just, don't love yourself. You need to love yourself and in all the processes that you go through.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree with that, because I mean, I can only speak from my own personal experiences, having to maybe lose my mom was really a big one, or my parents in general, and knowing that now I'm an orphan, when I started to look at it more as I was so privileged to have had them for that many years and to have gotten the lessons that they teach me and just the love and attention and all the mindsets that I learned through my parents. Like, I started to look at it from a different point of view. Did it hurt less? No, absolutely not. I was broken and my world was shattered. But went into that radical acceptance of this is just really how things are, with, you know, the non-attachment part, which really took me a much longer time, and I'm still working on that. But the closer I got to that, it was more like, I'm now just so grateful that I've had that person or these people in my life or this situation, because it was amazing to have that life experience in my current lifetime. But I think that's sometimes very challenging, especially when we talk about deep pain, like rooted deep pain, you know, then to just be like, okay, this is like, I'm broken right now, but yeah, this was a great experience to do, because one day I'm gonna learn so much about it. You know, I feel like that transitional time obviously is something that is individual. It takes somebody a week to 10 years or longer or shorter or whatever. But I feel like just the idea of being grateful for the parts that are so shitty sometimes that are happening to us could be really a good start, to just be like, okay, let me look at the shitty part that had happened in my life, and let me see what was actually something I personally were allowed to be teached through that or gain through that, you know. And yeah.
Yeah, but you can never be broken. So you're unbreakable. The experiences might feel like the temporary ideas of you can be broken, but you by itself can never be broken. You will always be whole. So that's also a good belief thing. But getting to know yourself and what
Yeah.
actually, if you want to transform something, let's say you want to move to a different house and get a different job and all that,
Mm-hmm.
it helps if you're aware of why you are where you are. So when you really get to know yourself, like, yeah, but I live here because my son goes to this school, because this is where I have my friend circle that can support me. Um, this is okay. So you usually end up, once you go like, okay, well, this is okay, but there's a better
Mm-hmm.
job somewhere else. But in order to get there, I have to rebuild a whole community for myself and all that. So you know what you're up against, and then you can look at it much more kindly and realistically, and you can look at it together with yourself and say like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I'm going to take this step because I know whatever I have here I can get somewhere else again, and that's
Mm-hmm.
better for me. When otherwise you're more likely to stay where you're at, or you, because this is already what I know, even though it's not ideal. And then if your spirit decides that you want the other experience, even though you don't think you do, it'll
Right.
come, you may get sick on the job that you currently have and you can't do it anymore. So you have to do something else, or you lose the apartment you're living in and you're going to have to move somewhere anyway. So the universe has a way to get through to us no matter what we do.
Right.
If we are really aware and open and hear the little voices that say, hey, this might be a better idea for you, and not say like, yes, but there are all
Uh-huh.
these reasons why I can't do that. Then the next time it goes like, hey, this is a better idea for you. And then you still go, yes, but.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally it goes like, okay, I told you nicely twice. It's sort of like telling your kids to put the laundry away.
Right.
The third time you're not that kind anymore. You're going to make sure they know if the laundry's not put away, it may be out the window or something. I hope you're not that kind of a parent, but
No, but I get
uh,
what you're saying. It's a great example. It's really a good example, because at the end of the day, there's things will happen no matter what, right?
yeah,
And so, how you said at the beginning of the conversation, you can try to manifest anything and everything, but if it's really not in alignment with the universe in your soul's journey before you signed up to come down here in this experience, it won't happen to you. And the same way these kind of things happen, I feel like the opposite happens too. When you are knowing you have to get something done, it kind of always last minute, it will always provide for you, like just amazing things, people, circumstances, situations are just being moved and like put like on a chessboard, like all of a sudden, the universe like takes this thing on the chessboard and puts it here, even though in this moment it doesn't look like it will never be this way. Like in your actual moment reality, you look at your chessboard and you're like, well, how I'm gonna make this play? I can't, because I have no moves on the thing on the chessboard. But I feel like that's exactly the opposite of the universe too, where they're like, listen, if we think we're gonna move situations for you in a second without you even understanding how it happened. And so sometimes, wondering how is this going to happen and how is that going to happen, I feel like it's almost in a sense a little bit of energy wasting versus asking yourself, like you said at the beginning, like who are you, like figuring stuff out within you, like just going after your own inner, okay, why am I this way, or what is this momentarity that I am in, would be so much more beneficial instead of worrying about how things will happen from above, because you don't really need to know the how. It's just, that's
Yeah.
really what, do you get what I'm saying, like, right?
Yeah, I
Or
get
how,
what you're saying, and I have kind of a cute little story from myself from years and years ago.
okay, please share.
So I had a lot to do and little kids, and I didn't, things were just piling up on my desk, and the things that I had to do, like taxes, and I'm like, oh, I do it tomorrow. I'm too tired now. And I just like, oh, not now. And so the mountain of stuff grew and grew.
Uh-huh.
And then, was the wonderful day where I took my daughter and her little friend down the cliffs to see the tide pools.
Okay.
And we were the only people down there. It was like a weekday, and her brother was in school. And so I slipped on a rock that I thought was really solid, and I fell, and I knew it was not good. Like the moment I landed, I knew this was not good. And so I sent the two girls to find me a stick, because somehow we had to go back up to the top. There was also no phone service down there. So they found a huge 2x4, which I could barely lift up with my arms. But that's the only
Okay.
piece they found. And so with that 2x4 and the two kids, I made it back up the cliff. And I thought, okay, so I need to, I'm not going to look at it, because I need to drive somewhere. I can't just sit here and not have phone service and stuff. So I drove home. And well, once I got home, I asked my neighbor to take me to the hospital. And of course, I broke my ankle. But I knew the moment I fell, I knew, well, I'm going to have time to do everything on my desk. This is the first thought I had. That kind of being in LA, not having a right foot available to use, so I couldn't drive.
Yeah.
And even when I got to the hospital, I said, "Oh, we have painkillers for you." I said, "No, it's not. It doesn't really hurt. It's okay. It's fine. We'll just send me to the orthopedic guy," and he put the cast on and sent me home and said, "Come back in six weeks." So I stayed home, and then, after some feeling sorry for myself, which of course I needed, and not doing anything but laying on the couch and sulking. After a few hours of that, I said, okay, well, if I want this to change, I better go and do the things that I needed to do. So I spent a good 2 weeks on all the times that I had to sit on and got everything taken care of. I mean, there was nothing on my to-do list anymore. And that night we were invited to dinner, and it was kind of far away. And when we got there, my then husband was not feeling well. But also we didn't have insurance at that time, or he didn't have insurance at that time. So he didn't want to go call an ambulance and so on. I said, well, I guess I have to take the cast off and drive home, because there's nobody else to do it. So I took the cast off and I drove home, and that was fine. And the next day I went back to the orthopedic guy and I said, I think my ankle is healed now. I don't think I need the cast anymore. And he said, no, that can't be. And I said, well, since I have to pay for it anyway, can we just do another x-ray and see if it's, because I don't think I need it anymore. So we did the x-ray, and immediately he said, no, you don't need it anymore. I don't know how that happened, but it did happen, and I'm not questioning it. So have a good life. So that was one of the things, but I, of course, had to do 2 lessons in one, not just my desk. I also had just discovered about instantaneous healing and how you can instantaneously heal and shift things in the body. And I was feeling pretty good about myself. So up on a high pedestal, I was going to teach a workshop to chiropractors. I had a group of chiropractors that invited me to talk about instantaneous healing and how it's possible. That was 2 days after I fell. So I had to go into a workshop that I gave on instantaneous healings with a cast on crutches. So the pedestal was a lot shorter. I was totally embarrassed at first. I was like, oh my God, what am I going to tell these people?
Right.
But what I could tell them is that that's not really what it's about. And it doesn't mean that that always happens, because things happen in your life. Everything happens for a reason. So everything that happens has a purpose in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, the purpose was, don't think you can, just play God from now on and heal everything, because it doesn't work that way. When you have your ego involved like that, it's not going to work.
Right.
So that was the big lesson, the embarrassing one. And the other one was, go take care of the things you need to take care of and stop having excuses all the time.
Right. Right. Yeah, it's great examples. And I mean, unfortunately, you had to physically live through those. But that just really shows you exactly what we have been talking about, that fundamentally you're not in control about anything, and you should just really, as best as you can, just really stay in the moment and take it all in, the good, the bad, the ugly, the nice, the fun, the all of that. And, just kind of like, learn to be more radically acceptance of certain situations in your life
Yeah.
that we don't have control over anyway, no matter how much we want them to be different, or how much we are not wanting this to pain anymore or hurt, but like you said, everything really does happen for a reason. And sometimes the reasoning is being shown much later. Obviously, it's not being shown in that moment. In that moment, it's more like you spoke about the ego and the pedestal and the what's going on. But then later, all the puzzles fit together and we learn and understand better.
Well, so those are the 2 things. One is really getting to know yourself and like really
Right.
questioning, who am I? Why am I doing this? And the other thing is, when something happens that you don't really find pleasant, just look at what does it make you do what does it make you do differently.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, not being able to drive or get around was, I had to stay home and attend to things right in front of me, because I couldn't run far away, which I would have loved to do.
Right.
So that was one of the things achieved through that injury. That take flight thing was sort of scratched off the list of possibilities. So
Yeah.
we can look at that. What are the benefits? What are we doing different because of it? And then we can say, okay, if I would have said, now, okay, I can take care of all that beforehand, when it was coming up several times a day, looking at me saying, hey, take care of me, I may have been able to avoid that fall. But nonetheless, the fall was made for a better story. and
Yeah.
and it also had that other thing, that my whole ego thing, that wow, I'm so amazing. And I do know that healing is possible instantaneously. So that didn't change it, but it changed that, hey, I can do whatever I want with the universe.
Yeah, no, and I can be an absolute, that's my own personal testimonial that I just have from you, because I remember not too long ago, I had a really, really, really bad sciatica pain on my lower right side, kind of like in the middle of my spine. And I remember that we were supposed to go somewhere together, and I made it to your house, and I told you that I could barely, in a sense, I mean, I could move and I could sit, but it just felt uncomfortable. And when you're talking about your healing abilities, you know, you didn't even touch me. You were literally standing behind me, barely, with maybe I felt like one or two, three fingers sometimes touching me, like a little bit like this, like just. And that pain before, when I'm like, oh, it was completely gone. So I'm a, like a proven testimony here that it happened on my own self, in my own body, that instant
Oh,
healing part.
you did that.
So
I
I,
didn't do anything.
you know, so I truly believe that too, you know. But I'm so, you know, I just have so much respect for you even owning, you know, the part of your ego that you just expressed, because I feel like only when we are allowing ourselves to really be so transparent and honest with our own self, or where we fail, or where we go wrong, or what we allow to take over, I feel like that's only when we're being rewarded with like those amazing things in our life, because we're stripping ourselves naked basically, and saying, look, I'm sorry, I know this was totally out of my ego. And you know, that's why I have so much respect for you, to really calling yourself out on these things, not only because for your own good, because you learned so much through that, but also just to admitting that, because I think it's important to admit when we when our ego kicks in, and we have different intentions to begin with, but we're making it seem like those are not the intentions. Like, if we own it, it's okay. That's the only way how to, you know, really get to know yourself the best way. Just own it. Yeah, okay, I can be this and that, or I am this and this way. Now, I want to change it. Okay, that's another part, you know, but you owning who you are in this moment and what you really want or not want, I think it's a great step of really allowing the universe to work for you, instead of pretending and having that mask and all of that stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, and we always get to wherever we're going, but a lot of times we have to repeat the same lesson over and over again. You know, people that are coming out of abusive homes, they usually end up in abusive relationships, and then they leave that one because it's so horrible just to end up in another abusive relationship, because they repeating the pattern over and over again. Now that's a rough pattern, but I'm using that because it's one that people can always see, like, oh, why are they doing that? Because they haven't understood yet what the lesson behind it is. So the beautiful thing about the universe is that you get to see what's inside of you by the experiences you have in the world, and by the people that surround you. So you always have that mirror, and you know, it'll come together in a way where it supports what you need to learn. And so looking or asking the question, where is this pointing me? You know, where is actually, where should I actually go? Where is this making me look? Like, if you are in an abusive relationship and you leave it, the way to look would be, are there people that are not in an abusive relationship? What do they do? How do they end up there? How do they feel about themselves, and how can I get there, and what do I need to do to get there? So that the world is so full of different people having different experiences, that we always get that chance to see somebody else, like, wow, you know, how does that person deal with that? And how come they, you know, got out and now are in a very supportive relationship or family?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, it's
And
true.
then, you know, then there are those that say, like, oh, you know, my parents were abusive and I'm always going to be abusive. And then that's also going to be true.
Yeah.
And I had a teacher a long time ago, and he was, I heard him speak once, and he said, like, oh, you know, I had that wonderful experience. I had a very abusive stepfather who would beat me heavily. And I learned as a young child to leave my body at will so that I wouldn't have to feel the pain. So later on, he was teaching, you know, astral projection and how to leave your body and all that. And he said, well, other people have to work really hard on that. But, you know, thanks to my stepfather, I learned that as a kid, and I learned how to do that really fast. So there was no, wow, I had this evil, horrible stepfather. which
Right.
could have also been his story. And my life was miserable for the rest of it. So we create the stories around our experiences, but we can change the stories.
Exactly. Exactly. You can change your story just because it has been your truth or your story up till this part doesn't mean that you have to adapt and maintain with that. You have the
Yeah.
freedom to recreate it. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, you have the freedom to recreate it. And usually, unfortunately, that's what we do a lot before we learn.
Right. Right. But I guess that's also part of just learning it in general, because I
Yeah.
feel like how else can we other than falling?
Yeah.
Because when we learned to ride a bike, we fell a few times. Or, for me, like,
Yeah.
I always like to use the example of ice skates,
Yeah.
on the ice. That was horrible for me. I fell so many times, so it really took a lot of tries. But yeah, I guess it's better to fall and wanting to learn instead of being stuck where you are and missing out on amazing things because, life can be magical or life is magical and magic only happens if you invite it in. Sometimes you have to jump through a hurdle to get to the rainbow. But
And
yeah,
I don't think you can miss out actually in this life. You can't miss out because the universe will supply you.
no
But you
matter
can,
what.
repeat a lot of pain for
Yeah.
yourself in your stubbornness wanting to learn.
Yeah.
So, but even then, that will be just another good experience.
Right. Yeah, and that's why I want you to just quickly say the name of your book because I think so many examples that we just brought up today are so perfectly written in your book, and I feel like when I was reading your book, it was such an easy read where you could just scroll through it, and it was, to me, when I read it I visualized, like, I don't know how anybody else feels when they read your book, but that's kind of how I felt when I was reading it. I got always a good visual within the examples that were given, and it's not a whole lot of crazy English words in there that I don't understand or I had to look up. So for me, it was such a great, simple, easy read and so easy to understand the examples and kind of like the little homework that would come with certain things. And I thought it was really wonderful.
Well, my book is called The Transformation Promise
There you go.
because
Yeah.
it is a promise. You cannot stay the same. You will transform. So I was thinking about the title and I thought that's a promise I can definitely make and
Yeah.
because I'm not not easy to give promises, but I can give you the promise of transformation because that is a given.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so that's how the title came about.
Yeah. Well, podcast lovers, there you have it. Johanna, this was such a great conversation. I so appreciate your time, the golden nuggets that you dropped here. I will definitely post this book in the bio and the description because I think it could be really helpful for a lot of people. And for you podcast lovers, if there's anything that you would like to share, if you want to contribute something to the collective with anything that is on your heart, my mic is always open. Until then, stay rooted, stay grounded, stay blessed, and always connected to love, the strongest force in the universe.
Thank you.